This video is a recorded live presentation that was facilitated on May 19th, 2021. The video provides an overview of the Radnor Township Kindergarten Program. Hello, my name is Sean Dukevich, and I'm the Director of Elementary Teaching and Learning for the Radnor Township School District. I'm joined by Ithan Elementary Principal Dr. Chandra Boylan and kindergarten teachers Lori Geiling from Wayne Elementary, Eleanor Ball from Ithan Elementary, and Vera Correa-Meyer from Radnor Elementary. Also joined by Sarah Steiner, one of our English language development teachers and department lead. Finally, we have members of our parent-teacher organization joining us as part of the presentation as well. To start, we're going to show you a quick video, a day in the life of a Radnor kindergarten student. All right, before we get into the program details, two quick slides here to talk about our registration process. So to register at Radnor Township School District, you would come to our administration building, with the address is located on the screen, and also access the web page, also shown on the screen, to get details on the registration process. In addition to health and immunizations, we would need a proof of birth, a proof of residency, and any affiliated documentation that would go along with those things. Early registration is key, so we ask the parents begin the registration process and all the paperwork as soon as they know that we'll be registering their child here at Radnor. For those families coming to us with a multilingual background, we also include a home language survey as part of our enrollment process. And for those who require ELD services or English language development services, we have a family interview with our ELD leader, Ms. Sarah Steiner, as well as a WIDA kindergarten screener, which helps us identify where the student is entering our system regarding academic readiness. Any questions, if you are a multilingual family and have any questions, please reach out directly to Ms. Sarah Steiner, and her email is on this slide as well. At this time, we're going to jump into the nuts and bolts of a student day in kindergarten, and I'm going to turn it over to one of our Ithan Elementary kindergarten teachers, Ms. Eleanor Ball.
Hi, everybody. It's nice to see everyone this evening. So here you have in front of you a typical schedule. It's just a sample. It won't necessarily be exactly like this come September. And from school to school, the schedules might look a little bit different. But generally speaking, of course, there's the arrival and unpacking time, and you saw that in the video, and you may have noticed how independent the children become with all of that, coming in and knowing exactly what the routines are and getting themselves organized for the day. And then we would typically start with a morning meeting, a really, really important time of the day for building community, giving the children a chance to share, and just making sure that we're all sort of together and on the same page, ready to begin the day. And a part of that is our calendar math time. Sometimes that'll be during the math block, and other times it'll be part of the morning meeting. But this is also a really important time, and not only to practice calendar skills, but also to practice a lot of the math skills that are kind of embedded in the work that we do with the calendar. Then typically in the schedule that you see here anyway, we might move into a reading workshop. Again, kind of a dynamic time that would involve some shared reading, some time for reading response, and you'll hear a little bit more about the actual reading curriculum that we use in just a few minutes. And then we would move into an I&E time. The I stands for intervention and the E stands for extension. And this is a time when children who might need a little extra support in any of the work that they're doing would receive that at that time, and also any extension that they might need, something to enrich their learning. And it's also a good time for centers so that children can move around the classroom and be practicing the skills that they've learned in centers hopefully with friends, hopefully a little closer together than they've been allowed to be in this last year. Then lunch and recess time, you also saw in the video, the lunch process. The children, again, become very self-sufficient and independent with that whole process, so no need to worry about them getting the hang of that. And then after lunch recess. Foundations is our phonics program. And it's something that you'll hear a little bit more about in just a few moments, but that is a time for very focused instruction on phonics. Then perhaps we'd move into a writing workshop time at this time of day. Again, there might be time for shared writing. There would be mentor texts that are read as examples for the children before they begin to try to write on their own. And then, of course, time for each of them to try their hand at writing. Then social studies and science. And then after that, specials. We have 5 specials right now. A little bit of talk about maybe adding a 6th one, but right now music, art, library, gym, and wellness are the 5 specials. Following that, an afternoon snack. And typically children do bring they do bring their own snack and typically bring their own water bottle as well to have with them all day. Math time, and then math center time. So that block, which is about an hour long, would be time for math instruction and practice, but also a chance for the kids to work together in centers. Then we do have a second recess, an afternoon recess time, and then dismissal at 3:40. And I'll just keep going, Sean. For drop-off and bus procedures, this is something I think that parents and sometimes kids get a little nervous about, but we have a really great bus orientation that happens in August to familiarize families with the whole process and to even take a bus ride, hopefully. Even though the procedures might differ slightly from school to school, you can be assured that buses are coming as close to your home address as possible. When students are dropped off at school, there are always adults there to greet them. They're not needing to find their own way by themselves. And we usually have a lot of adults available at the front of the building to greet the children. And then in the afternoon, same thing, plenty of adults guiding children to their buses or to the pickup line. And they do have bus tags with bus information that is attached to their backpacks. So we always have the information that we need. And the kids just become acclimated really, really quickly to this whole routine. Kindergartners do sit in the front of the bus.
And it's still you, Eleanor. Morning.
All righty. So as I mentioned before, the morning meeting time is a really critical time in our day when the children first come in to greet one another. We work a lot on eye contact and various ways to greet one another in a way that has them practicing what it means to acknowledge someone else's greeting and to greet them back. Time to share either news from home or to share by way of a particular activity or question of the day that each child can answer for the class. And then we have a morning message, which kind of lays out the plan for the day. Children practice reading the morning message, and even embedded in the reading of the morning message are some kind of subtle language arts activities and phonics practice and
Stop.
for the calendar math, which I mentioned a few minutes ago, of course, we practice saying what the date is, thinking about what yesterday was, what tomorrow will be. And also as a part of that is a lot of pattern practice, which of course is foundational for kindergarten math. We also talk about the weather and the temperature, and children have in kindergarten classrooms typically have jobs. So there might be a child who's in charge of the calendar or in charge of the weather, which gives them a great opportunity to show some leadership and to practice those skills kind of in front of their classmates. We do count the number of days we've been in school, and of course the big highlight is when we get to day 100, and enjoy celebrating that day. And the lead up to that is a whole lot of fun. And as I mentioned before, lots of chances to practice patterns, both in the calendar and in the school day count.
Right, Eleanor, you.
In language arts, as I mentioned before, the Foundations program is our phonics program. It's really foundational for all of the reading skills that the children will be working on throughout the year, and writing skills. We do drill letter sounds daily, and this practice that's very systematic has been highly successful for all of our children as they prepare to learn to read or continue in their learning to read. As the year goes on, we do a lot of wordplay, definitely introducing blends, otherwise known as digraphs. And we really do emphasize proper letter formation. And if I could add a little note here, if you are working with your children on letter formation, I would encourage you to focus on lowercase letters and not uppercase letters. If we think about it, we very rarely use uppercase letters in writing. So the emphasis really in kindergarten is going to be on all letter formation for sure, but a strong emphasis on lowercase. Children who need extra support can receive that extra support through what we call double dose. We have wonderful literacy aides who are available for helping any children who need kind of an extra boost there, or a repeat of lessons that have been done in class. Our reading and writing program are called Making Meaning and Being a Writer. And one of the great things about each of these is that social skills are embedded. So the children, as they work on their reading and writing, are also sharing their thoughts with partners or in small groups. And so there's a lot of practice for the sharing of ideas and listening to others as they share theirs that are all embedded in our lessons. We do focus on narrative, informational, and opinion reading and writing. And as I mentioned before, mentor texts are really important for modeling for the children quality literature. Teachers also meet with small groups, flexible small groups. So those groups are ever changing according to the needs of the students. Very often a teacher will be meeting with small groups for guided reading while the rest of the class is reading independently. And we do stress practice with that. So that's actually something, if you're thinking about preparing for kindergarten, having a little time for your child to read, even if they're just reading the pictures, to spend 10 or 15 minutes reading by themselves to get used to that practice of independent reading. We do have lots of staff support in language arts. We have a reading specialist, we have a humanities coach, and as I mentioned before, literacy paraprofessionals who are there to support their children.
All right, thank you so much, Eleanor.
You're
And
welcome.
we're gonna transition over to math now, and we'll introduce Vera, one of our kindergarten teachers from Radnor Elementary.
Hello, nice to be here tonight. For our math, we use Math in Focus or Singapore Math. And I'll just quickly go over some of the concepts that we teach in kindergarten. We do numbers to 100. We work on number sense, number facts. We have students compare numbers. So least, greatest, lesser, more. We look for patterns, just like Eleanor said. A lot of times that is during our calendar math period, but we also do have a chapter that we focus on patterns. The children learn to measure and compare size, length, weight, and height of objects. Students will also classify and sort objects in our math curriculum. And we finally learn about addition, subtraction, and money. So our math curriculum practices a gradual release. So if you think about our math lessons, think of it as like an I do it, we do it, you do it together. So like small group work, and then you do it alone. So a lesson can look like the teacher shows a picture to the kindergarten class and we discuss it. I guide the class with questions to start to teach a math concept. Then I model it with like manipulatives and make it very concrete for the students to do. They do it along with me. And then they move into the explore phase, investigate and explore phase of the lesson, where with small groups or partners, they practice the concept through games and activities. And then finally, the end would be for them to be able to independently, like paper to pencil to paper, show that they understand the concept. And that is the structure of all of our math chapters. At the beginning of every chapter, you would get like a school to home information sheet to let you know what we are going to be studying for that chapter. And within the chapters, we have extra practice, which helps support the students. Sometimes it can go home for homework. It depends on your teacher, but that's also just a way to reinforce skills. And there's also enrichment that is built into the program as well. So if there's any extensions that any student needs, we also have that built within our curriculum. So yeah, the students love math. Writing the numbers is something, just like Eleanor said, we practice our writing of our letters. It's also the same for our numbers. Sometimes it can be tricky, and it's something that we practice. And if already at home you want to start to practice numbers, that's a great way to get them kindergarten ready.
Thank you, Vera. And we're going to stick with you to talk about social studies and science.
Yes. So we have 3 major units of social studies. Our first unit is community building, civics, and national symbols. And this actually falls at the very beginning of our kindergarten year, and it's perfect because we study the importance of building community. And so our classroom is our little community, and the importance of establishing rules and how to govern ourselves, essentially. And they're hands-on a part of this. And as we study the importance of it in the outside world, we also discuss how important it is for us to have it in our classroom. So it falls in just a perfect time at the beginning of kindergarten. And then we also study leaders within our community and the importance of leaders, and learn about their roles. So again, maybe jobs within the classroom would fall into this. So that's a really nice beginning of the school year. The next unit for social studies is holidays and family traditions and economics. And this happens about winter time. It's a perfect fit for that. They explore celebrations and holidays of their communities. So if, like, all the students within their class and their own families. And it's actually interesting because a lot of the little ones aren't aware that their traditions aren't necessarily traditions that everybody has. So it's just so wonderful to share everybody's traditions. And also sometimes they share the same ones, which they find exciting. But they do love when there is a different, a tradition they have not yet done. And sometimes they take it back to their family and want to do that themselves. So it's really very sweet, our social studies curriculum. Then the economics is our needs and wants and goods versus services. Yet again, perfect for winter holidays where there's a lot of gift giving. And then we move on to the third unit, which is history and government and geography and world cultures. And that's just the importance of, like, historical and present day leaders and their effect of communities in our country and in our towns, all the way down to our classrooms. And the geography, more where do they fit in the world, but more of a focus on local geography. And the PTO very kindly gives us a subscription to Scholastic News, and this is a great nonfiction magazine that the children love. It comes with videos, games, and it's just a great nonfiction piece that always has topics of science and social studies that we can touch on. For science, we do forces in motion, so we try to get the kids as active as we can, and they are beginning to see the world as science, right? So we have them, for forces in motion, go out and think of all the movements, and then we have them do little activities that help reinforce the concept of a push and a pull motion and the forces that stop them, or why does a car go down a ramp faster when the ramp is at a specific incline. But that's all things that they explore and we talk about together as a class. Exploring plants and animals, we talk about living and non-living and what they need to survive and their habitats. We grow plants. I'm in the middle of growing plants right now with my little ones, and when I say yay science, that's something I hear all the time from the kindergartners. They just absolutely love it. I mean, and even the picture is just fantastic. So and then the exploring weather. Now, a lot of the times weather will be incorporated with our calendar math. If not, then the teacher will teach that as a separate unit. But most times when we are doing our day and our calendar math, we incorporate weather with that as well.
Thank you, Vera. And we're going to continue with handwriting.
Yeah. So just like Eleanor said, we really try to emphasize correct letter formation. I think a lot of times our little ones come to us writing their letters like from the bottom up. But this program, it's all from top to bottom, which is a pretty big change for them if they are writing in preschool. And it's practice, practice, practice. And they do come typically knowing their uppercase letters. I don't know why that is, but we keep it as child-friendly as we can. We use, like in this picture, there is a dry erase board and dry erase markers. So, really, I never see students frustrate with writing just because it's a quick, easy swipe to remove that letter and start over again. And also very easy to trace over a letter that you can model and put on their dry erase board for them. So this is a very new skill typically for the little ones. And by the end of kindergarten, it's pretty fantastic. From the beginning to the end, it's pretty amazing. You can go to the next.
All right, and we're going to introduce Laura Geiling, one of our kindergarten teachers from Wayne Elementary, to talk to you next about specials and some other things. Lori?
Hi, everyone. Welcome again. Our specials, we have 5 specials, and they are just, our specialists, we say, are the areas of subjects of gym, music, art, library, and wellness. So each day, the students go for 50 minutes outside of our class to the gym or to the music, to the art. It's not on a certain day though. So you can't think, oh, Monday's going to be gym. We try and make sure that every specialist seen a certain amount of times. And we found in the past that when we had them all on gym, all on Mondays were some of the days that we were off. So we went to a 5-day schedule. So you will get to know that day 1 is gym, day 2 is music, day 3 is art, day 4 is library, day 5 is wellness. The kids get to get in a pretty good habit of understanding that. So if we have a day off in the middle of the week, we don't miss that special. The next day that we're back in school is the next. So if we were on a day 3 and then we had a day off, the next day would be day 4 when we came back. So they're 50 minutes all with their special teacher, and they absolutely love going to specials. Then we talk about homework. So homework, I know everybody dreads homework. However, homework is fun. It's 10 minutes or less in kindergarten. Really, honestly, if it's taking more than 10 minutes, put it away. Every kindergarten teacher will say the same thing. We believe that reading with your student, your child, so practicing reading and practicing sight words are probably the 2 most important homework assignments you can do, and that's every day. Then we will also send home some additional assignments, a math worksheet every now and then, at least once a week, practice writing your letters, things like that. So again, 10 minutes and under. Each teacher is a little bit different on their homework policy. If it's in a packet, I know sometimes we send a packet at the beginning of the week and say, turn it back in on Friday, and it has each of those assignments in there for the week. It'll come home in their what we call a red folder or their homework folders, the parent communication folder. And that's where you're also going to send any notes to and from school that you have for your teacher. Then we have our intervention and extension time, we also known as I&E time. Eleanor talked a little bit about that already, but this is the time that your child will be getting some extra services. So what I say by extra services, if your child needs speech, occupational therapy, physical therapy, they will have their time in that way. They're not missing any new instruction. So there's no new instruction taught by the teacher at that time. If the students are left in the room, they are working in small groups during this for centers at this point, or small reading groups, continuing working on skills that need more improvement and more time. So that's what the teacher's doing with the students that are left in the room. Some of the students are also out of the room working with our reading specialist or our literacy aides with that double dose that we talked about with foundations, where you need a little bit of extra support. So you're getting that at that time. Again, no missed new instruction, which is amazing. And I know a lot of parents and a lot of students at first say, oh, my student's leaving the room. I don't know if I like this. the kids that are left in the room want to be out. They're like, wait a minute, why do they get to leave all the time? And there's so many kids that are coming in and out during that time. They're not singled out. It's really a good time to have different skills being worked on throughout the building. And then we have our learning centers. Again, that part of that is during that I&E time where, and if your student's out, some teachers will have it at the right before I&E, it leads into I&E time. There's language arts centers. Those are typically in small groups, sometimes individually. They're working with little activities, games to strengthen their skills, sight word games. Sometimes there's iPads involved where they're doing fun activities on the iPad, could be a small group, but there's lots of different opportunities for kids to work either in partners or in small group, reinforcing those skills. And then the second part of learning centers isn't necessarily during I&E time, and that's the second part of the math where we focus on the math centers during that time. So those are the two areas where we are practicing skills that were previously taught. And what I like about learning centers is that you can level your kids a bit. So not every student's working on the same skill. So if one child is still working on beginning sounds and another child is already at ending sounds, we can have a couple different centers with those things. So everybody's working at their ability. Then we come to lunch, recess, and snacks. All right. Lunch is 25 minutes a day. So, and by the time it's lunch for most students, they're ready for it. They eat in the cafeteria. They can either bring their lunch or have a school provided lunch. Excuse me. So they have 25 minutes to eat their lunch. My biggest thing to say with this is have containers, if you're bringing their lunch from home, have containers that are easily opened, and they need to learn not necessarily to eat quickly, but a little less chatting, a little more eating during that time, because those 25 minutes go by really, really fast. And the kids are excited to be out of the classroom, so they want to chat with each other. They do sit with their own classes. So there'll be assigned tables, they'll have their seat where they can sit their own class. The other thing that you should really practice with your child as soon as you get at the beginning of the school year is their lunch number. Their lunch number is their ID number, and it is going to be what they use from the day one to the very end of their high school career. That's their lunch number throughout the entire time. So they need to get to know that number pretty well. If you are trying to figure out what the lunches are available at school, there is on the websites, the menus are available online there. So either before or after lunch, we will have recess. It all depends on the school year. If they have lunch before recess and then, or if they have recess first and then lunch. Recess is also a 25-minute period. It's outdoors on the playgrounds, on the fields, unless it's raining or extreme cold weather. And then we are inside for recess in the classroom, and they're in their own classroom doing that recess at that time. At the very end of the day or some point throughout the later afternoon, there's typically a second recess or purposeful play where they can be out and again, learning skill building activities and having some fun with the kids. What the kids love about recess is that it's not just their class, they're with all the kindergartners at that time from their school. And each kindergarten class has a snack time. So it's typically I know my school, it's in the afternoon because we've had lunch towards the later morning. So it's in the afternoon for my school. And the biggest thing that I can say with that, again, easy to open containers. We want them to be a little bit more self-sufficient, and no peanuts. So it's easier to have, we say no peanuts at all, no nuts at all. I should say peanuts, no nuts, due to the fact that there are some allergies in class. If there are other allergies, your teacher will get in touch with you about that, not to have that, but easy, small, healthy snacks are what we suggest.
All right, we're going to shift back to Eleanor to talk about some of our assessments we use.
Sorry about that. Assessments are really ongoing. Teachers are assessing all the time. So informally, what we call formative assessments, those are happening all the time in lots of different ways. But we do have some universal screeners that we use. And if a student is found to be struggling in any way, we will monitor that student using what we call progress monitoring, just to help make sure that no one's falling through the cracks and we're able to add additional support where needed. We do have language arts and math assessments focusing mostly on letter sounds, letter identification and number sense that happen throughout the year. And with each of our curricular areas, there are assessments that are related to the curriculum. So all kinds of things going on all the time to monitor student learning. We have progress reports 3 times a year. The progress reports are aligned with our curriculum and are meant to do exactly what the title suggests, to inform parents about their child's progress. They're distributed 3 times a year in December, March, and June. And you can access the progress report online through our Home Access Center. And all of the instructions for that will be communicated to you. So no worries about not knowing how to do that. Everything will be given to you that you need so that you can access those progress reports at those 3 times during the year. We also have parent-teacher conferences in November and in March. So you'll notice perhaps that the progress reports are not necessarily directly aligned with those conferences. The November conference comes first, then the December progress report, March conferences and progress report, and then a June progress report.
Thank you, Eleanor. And we're going to shift back to Vera about social emotional learning that we have in place.
So at Radnor Township School District, we use the responsive classroom for our social and emotional skills. And that belief is that you teach the competencies of cooperation, assertiveness, responsibility, empathy, and self-control. And we do this throughout the day, right? So there really isn't a given time except for our morning meeting, because throughout, especially in kindergarten, there's so many chances to teach the social emotional skills needed to be able to navigate this world. So that being said, we start our day though with a morning meeting, and the morning meeting starts with a greeting, a sharing, an activity, and a morning message. And this is really how we start our day, to get everybody to feel part and to feel heard, and to teach how to listen and respond to each other. So it's a wonderful way to start our day. And also within the program, there's a closing circle, and this is how you end your day. And you can have discussions about how the day went. It can be led by the teacher or student. It's really all different between teachers and grade levels as well. But for kindergarten, as you can imagine, it is a pretty big, it's a pretty big umbrella of all the ways that we teach them their social emotional skills. We also have access to our counselors, and they work with the teacher or even come in and teach a lesson to the class, and can sometimes, and we didn't have it this year, but assemblies for social skills, but always have access to more brains and heads to help with any social emotional needs that come up throughout the year, or just our guidance counselor also just loves to come and to be in the class and be involved and get to know the students from kindergarten through all of elementary. So, and snack time, center time, and the recesses, all kind of unstructured in a way, time for students to start to really put into practice all their social skills that they're learning, and time for us to guide them in how to handle themselves and speak up for themselves and respond and ask people to play. So, and working in groups. It's all through all of our curriculum. We have opportunity for social emotional skills in our reading and our writing. In our reading and writing, we have a turn and talk, and we really practice speaking in full sentences and listening to your partner. So after their turn and talk is finished, it's typically, what did your partner say? So they actually have to report out what their partner said, which is totally new for them. It actually blows their mind when you say, okay, so turn to teacher and tell me what your partner said. And they're all like, I don't know. I have no idea. And so that is something that we work throughout the year, but they get it. And it's really exciting to see them navigate their days. We also have social workers and social emotional coaches in our district, and also a wellness counselor and coordinator. So we all have as much support and that we need for all of our needs that might crop up throughout the year.
All right, thank you, Vera.
Go back to the, yeah, there we go. Okay, so we always get the question, like, how do I know if my student or if my child is ready to be a kindergartner? And we would love for your little one to be able to go through their day with some independence. So I'm just going to go through it. I know you guys obviously can read it yourselves, but I'm just going to go point by point. These are what we call self-help skills, so that they can just kind of take care of themselves, their bodies, their environment around them. So zipping a coat or a jacket, even being able to pull the sleeve out, right? If they take the jacket off and it's inside out, being able to stick their arm in and pull the sleeve out. That's a pretty big one. Maybe your child doesn't even know how to put their jacket on, practicing that. But then definitely zipping up that coat. If they can get themselves organized with the zipping of the coat. I was actually kind of impressed this year. I had a whole bunch that did. But there are definitely some years that the little ones come not knowing how to do that. But if they could do that independently, it would make their little days easier. Tying shoes. Now, there wasn't a chance that my boys were going to be able to tie shoes in kindergarten. Some are really impressive and they can do it. My boys could not. So I just Velcro, and Eleanor and I had discussed it. She loves Velcro. She thinks it's an amazing invention. It makes it so easy. So Velcro shoes, if tying shoes is not a possibility. And I would also say, for like my little fashionistas out there, of course, you can express yourself through clothing. I think that's great. But sneakers are a kindergarten shoe, right? So open-toed shoes, like flip-flops, boots, like they're beautiful and they're awesome, but really not kindergarten friendly. So, because we want them on the playground or running around and not worrying about wood chips or tripping. Packing and unpacking your school bag, again with the zipper. Also just having them understand that you can't shove everything in your book bag and think it's going to zip. Scissor skills, also carrying scissors. And of course, these are all things that we teach at school too, but just coming in with some confidence in these areas would be great. As Lori had said, opening food containers. Another thing I teach in my kindergarten class is if it is a wrapper and it is a snack, they can open it with their scissors before. Obviously, you can't do that for lunch items, but snack items, even just teaching them to open the container, or the bag with scissors. Bathroom etiquette, washing hands, flushing the toilet, buttoning pants, all those things. So, to exit the bathroom, make sure your clothes are adjusted and correct and on. Playing with children. So maybe, you go to, well, in this day and age, so it's hard for me to say, but playing with other children, maybe going to the park, being able to go up and say, what are you playing? Can I play with you? Being able to take turns, right? Not always having to be first. That's a big thing. Asking for help. So finding the words to express yourself when you need an adult's attention or another student's attention. So just advocating for yourself. So in situations, and it's hard, sometimes it's easier for you just to speak for your child, but maybe in moving forward in those situations, if your child has a question and it would be directed to another adult or another child, let your child take the reins and do that. Following directions. So maybe start to give your child some two-step directions and see if they can do it. Get them used to hearing and doing more than one thing at a time, right? So go upstairs and take out your stuffed animal for bed or something like that. And fostering problem-solving skills. I get it. It's easier to sometimes just do it for your child because you got to move on, but letting your child figure out how to solve a problem is awesome, right? So they don't crumple when there is something that's hard and difficult for them because they're not used to trying to figure it out on their own, would be huge. That would be awesome. And then academic skills, practice counting to 20. That 13, 14, 15 is super tricky. Identifying your letters, uppercase and lowercase. A lot of them do seem to come knowing a lot of uppercase, and the lowercase is a little bit more iffy. But if they could know all their letters, uppercase and lowercase, that's a great start for them. Identifying colors and shapes, recognizing their name. So being able to read their name and to write their name, and to write their name with only one capital letter. Try new experiences with your child, expose them to new things, get them used to seeing and experiencing something that they wouldn't have even thought of, and persistence in activities. So it's hard, right? It can be hard, and just have them feel that and say, wow, like this is a challenge and I can do it myself, is a skill for life. And it's something that I love when there's a challenge for my students and that they do it. So praise their hard work. And then encourage independent play. Let them feel comfortable playing on their own, right? So it's not if they don't need necessarily to have a friend, that they can go it alone if they need to.
Thank you, Vera. And on our website, you can find more information about the specifics of our kindergarten program, especially the academic programming. So we'd encourage you to visit our website for more details. Okay, so before we jump into the very end here, so far we've kind of covered what a day in the life looks like. You got to see the visual of a typical year. We've talked about our academic programming, the supports in place for students to help them be successful. We've talked about some of the social emotional supports and our program that's in place there. And then even some things that we would love for our kids to come to school prepared to do. Of course, we will teach them and meet them where they are. And if students can't yet tie their shoe or zip their coat, that's something we work on as we go. So obviously we don't quite know or yet have a clear picture for what the fall may look like. This has been an interesting year, to say the least. And our students have talked about gaining perseverance and resilience throughout some really difficult times. They've been champions. So we have learned quite a bit over the course of this year. We continue as a district to follow all of our health and safety mandates, guidelines, and recommendations from not only national and state, but local health agencies help us and guide us and develop what we're doing in the classroom. So right now, of course, we don't quite know what will be in place in the fall. We may still need to have students distance and wearing masks. We don't know that yet. We do have daily screening, an app for that in the morning. Right now, all of our students are masked during the day, but we do have times when they can take a break during lunch and now at recess. We do also have to social distance our students currently at 4 feet or greater. But again, all those things may or may not be in place come September. We've also, if you did not know this, we also have operated a cyber program, fully cyber program for K-5 for the entire duration of the year thus far. And we're currently investigating options for next year, although we anticipate a much smaller number of interested families. We're still pursuing a program. And again, I'd encourage you to follow our website for ongoing details and information related to the fall. And I'm just going to move through some of these slides pretty quickly just because of time. You know, we want you to be involved, very much so. And I know that kindergarten is usually the entry year for a lot of parents, and so they're very interested in being involved and being part of their child's education. Parents are. So there's a lot of ways that can happen. We're going to have a kindergarten play date sometime this summer, likely in August. Usually we have an in-person back to school night. Again, not quite sure what the fall will look like yet, but that's an event that we hope all families will attend. There's many school activities typically over the course of a school year where parents can be part of, whether it's a classroom party or a larger celebration. There's volunteers, usually, again, in a typical year, class trips, things like that. And our PTO, our parent-teacher organization, does a tremendous job in supporting our students and our teachers and our schools at large. We also have an educational foundation called Radnor Educational Foundation, and they support our schools with grants to our teachers for different programs and special events. And so they are a huge asset to the school district. And as I mentioned in the beginning, we have a PTO representative from each elementary school that if you had any questions, we could try to tackle. But again, a parent-teacher organization really represents not just a small group of parents, it's really everyone. It's everyone working together. The building administration, all of our teachers, all of our parents working collectively to put some things in place for our students that really help round out the educational experience for them. Oh, sorry, I keep clicking the wrong button. And so the PTO really represents all of us. And what are some things typically that our PTOs do for our teachers and staff? Well, we mentioned just a minute ago the grants for teachers to offer them an avenue to purchase something for their classroom, such as an enhancement, or provide a unique opportunity for the kids, such as a virtual field trip or some experience that is not typically in our program. They also help facilitate our book fairs, our classroom parties. Teacher Appreciation Week is a great time. We had it earlier this month. And then there's other, like I mentioned before, cultural arts programs, author visits, really some amazing things that actually in many ways are some of the most memorable experiences for our kids. Things like bringing in outside presenters and things like that. At certain schools, we have different traditions, such as the circus production at Radnor, for those of you who know that. Different things happen in different schools that make them unique neighborhood schools. Also, before and after school clubs are also supported by our PTOs in different ways at each school. They help, again, community outreach and connecting things together, such as food drives, our Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service, which is a district-wide piece. We do some community service challenges, and you can see here there's a list of other things that helps connect the school and the community together through all different events and nights. Finally, I want to wrap up before opening up to questions. We have another great partner in the community, and that's the Radnor Memorial Library. Their educational director, Carrie Sturgill, is wonderful. She wasn't able to join us today, but she provided this information I wanted to share with you. So they are a wonderful resource for early literacy. And Carrie wanted me to pass along the message that she would love for you to bring your kids to the library this summer. There's some great events going to be happening. Here you go. Here's just some early literacy skills that they help to reinforce and support in different ways. There's a ton of resources, obviously not just books, but there are different events that the library hosts to engage the kids and excite them about books so they could take things out, engage in activities that happen on site at the library. Of course, there's also ebooks that can be signed out virtually. There's a number of programs they run to engage the community. This summer, their theme is called Tales and Tales, so a combination of story time and animals. And so there's even a readiness camp that'll happen. It's going to be virtual this year, but there will be some take-home kits that they're preparing for the home setting, and then they can connect virtually with the presenters. So again, the summer reading is Tales and Tales this summer. So there's going to be some more information on our website about that and through the Radnor Memorial Library website on how to get involved. This is, again, just a quote from, of course, our good friend, Mr. Rogers. Play gives children a chance to practice what they are learning. So A lot of the events at the Memorial Library kind of coincide with what we try to do in our kindergarten room with that thoughtful play and purposeful play. And again, this presentation is going to be posted to our website. Carrie is available, and she's again asked for me to reach out and share this information. So if you have questions, she is happy to answer them. So that concludes our presentation, and I'm going to stop sharing.